Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about Mark Hyman's book, Eat Fat, Get Thin. My name is Lauren Friedman, and I chose this book because I feel eating a lot of fats in your diet has actually really helped me. Before, I used to eat a more vegan-based diet with a lot of carbohydrates, and as of the past 6 months, for things like ADHD and neurological regeneration, I've actually tried to incorporate more healthy fats into my diet, and I've seen a lot of neurological healing. I've kind of gone more towards carnivore, but I feel that this book gets kind of like it's a segue into a more carnivore type diet, and talks about all the benefits of eating a higher fat diet. And this really does argue the controversial idea that eating the right kind of fats is actually not bad for you and it doesn't raise your cholesterol. And even if it does slightly, that's not an indicator for heart disease or insulin resistance and diabetes. A little bit about Mark Hyman. So he's a family practicing physician and director of the Cleveland Clinic and for functional medicine in Massachusetts. He's known for his functional medicine testing. I just saw him speak as a keynote speaker talking about his blood test called Function, where he actually tests over 100 different blood markers, biomarkers, and gives you an AI diagnosis of things going on in your blood to really early detect. And he looks at root causes of disease. So as opposed to traditional medicine, if you go to your regular GP, they're just going to give you an antibiotic, but he really will go deeper and look at the root causes of your disease. He's written many best-selling books. I've read other of his books, but I really did enjoy this one just because it's something I've tried to incorporate. So he talks about fat not being the enemy. And I think that large corporations have kind of demonized fat, especially in the early 90s, with all the artificial sweeteners. And for decades, we believed that a low-fat diet was the key to being skinny and feeling good. And Mark actually argues in this book that science was flawed. So things like refined sugar, refined carbohydrates, processed food are actually the precursors for inflammation and are the demise of our health, which I actually really agree with. Eating any processed food, even if it's deemed low sugar, low fat, actually tends to be more processed with white flour and GMOs, modified seeds, and canola oils. And the book really broke down the myths about what, I would say Big Pharma, Monsanto has been pushing onto us for decades. And I think that this book was kind of like a revelation. And then other books have spawned off of this, but he does encourage you to eat a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet, not to get fully into ketosis. He doesn't really go into that here, but also incorporate a lot of whole foods, veggies, things like avocado oils, nuts, seeds, wild fish, pasture-raised eggs, and grass-fed meats. And then moderate amounts of fruit, strawberries, blueberries, low glycemic fruits, cherries are really important for fiber and longevity. And avoiding things, processed food, sugar, refined carbs, and industrialized seed oils like canola oils and baby corn oils, which are cheaper oils, and they're really added as fillers in processed foods like cereals, processed oatmeal, popcorn, like things that are considered processed. Their cheaper oils are added into them. And then supplementing a lot with omega-3s, which I actually do as well. And I think this is great for all people neurologically, doing 2 grams of fish oil a day, and adding in probiotics to really optimize your gut flora. And then he also talks about the science behind this. So fat does not actually raise your cholesterol in the way we thought. He refers to the studies that show that low carb, high fat diets may be more effective for weight loss and blood sugar control than low fat diets. He also talks about the idea that fat supports hormone production, brain health, and satiety, which I've actually noticed myself when eating a higher fat meal, especially in the morning. It keeps me more full longer as opposed to eating a more carbohydrate rich meal that actually causes blood sugar dysregulation a few hours later, and my blood sugar will drop and then I'll feel more hungry again. I find that adding more fats, even if I have something like cottage cheese and add olive oil into it and or flax oil, anything, will really actually keep my satiety for longer. And then my personal thoughts, I found the book extremely engaging. I found it to be a bit of a beginner's guide into re-looking at the way we look at fats, and kind of just shifting the narrative, the paradigm shift towards, these healthier oils, nuts, and seeds, and looking at our hormone health, especially for women. I find that eating higher fats during the later phases in your cycle is much better for us, and actually helps regulate our menstruation and our progesterone levels. And I do want to talk about things where this diet, it wouldn't work for all people without a gallbladder, that have a hard time digesting fats, that need like bile acid salts. I mean, this wouldn't be recommended for everybody, but it is recommended for somebody who is kind of restricting, or feels very weak, feels very tired, or is not feeling full on a more carbohydrate based diet, whether they're eating, even healthy carbohydrates to an excess, eating tons of oatmeals, tons of potatoes. Those starchier based diets can actually make you have a lot of blood sugar dysregulation, and make you feel maybe more brain fog. And I think this can be helpful for somebody neurologically. And I think that Mark Hyman does have a lot of incentive because he does sell products. So a lot of this stuff directs, to his products, to his omegas. But I don't see any issue with this. I really enjoyed the book, and I thought that it was a beginner's guide into eating a higher fat diet, and kind of re-educating people on the benefits of things. And even adding, an avocado a day, or a scoop of flax oil, or things like that can be beneficial for regeneration and overall health and wellness. And then adding in fish oils, I think supplementing, if you're not going to do it, adding in primrose oil, really getting your 3, 6, and 9s balanced, so you're hitting those omega ratios, which is really important. And he also tests for that in his function testing. He looks at your particle size, your lipoprotein A and B, but he also looks at your omega acids, which I thought was really cool and really interesting in his function test. But it's a great book, and I would recommend it to anybody. And I think the biggest takeaway is don't fear fats, and I think that that's an outdated concept. All right, thank you.